Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited because joining me today is Lisa McEwen. Hey Lisa.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Excellent. Really excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're joining me on the show because we are going to be talking all about the hurdles songwriters have to jump time and time again, and this is going to be lots of fun. But before we get into our conversation, can you share with all the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey so far?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short, but I was born and raised in the suburbs outside of Toronto, a place called Oakville. And I've always loved singing. I came out singing, but I am the only musician in my family. And, I think my parents didn't know what on earth to do with me. So I loved singing around the house, but I definitely was shy growing up and just not really having I wouldn't say the support. My parents are very supportive, but when you don't really have musicians around you, they don't know what to do to help you kind of, seek out your musical dreams. So time went on and I got into things like musical theater and ended up going to Humber College for music. And when I was about 16, that's when I discovered country music. My dad would listen to the odd Johnny Cash album, but I think around that time was kind of when Shania Twain and the Dixie Chicks and Faith Hill were big. And I just thought this music was made for me. This fits my voice perfectly. I love the storytelling. And I think this is my calling. So I realized I had to get to Nashville because that's what all of my favorite singers and songwriters did. So let's see, when I was I think I was about 19 or 20, I went to NSAI, the Nashville Songwriters Association International, has different chapters and workshops. And I went to one and they were doing a big workshop with a writer, Victoria Banks was there. She's another amazing Canadian writer. And I realized, man, like she's a staff songwriter. There's people who write songs. That's their job. And a lot of them go on to then sign record deals and stuff. And I thought, okay, I am going to do this. I don't know how, but this is something I'm going to do. So amidst all of the different inner struggles I had, and which we'll get onto later, but in kind of trying to get over that shyness and also trying to get through those hurdles of like, am I good enough for this and that sort of thing, I decided to move to Nashville and did that. And after writing for a couple of years and hitting the pavement, as they say, I signed my first publishing deal, which was Murrah Music. It's an amazing experience and, got some cuts with them. And they ended up selling eventually to BMG. And then I moved on to a different publishing company. And I got to experience all sorts of different cool things. And all of it has been a really massive learning journey. And I realized that a lot of the things I've overcome over time is because of the mindfulness practices that I've kind of gathered over the years. And then that's what made me decide to start my company, which is called Music and Mindfulness. So now I help songwriters really overcome all those different things, right? Self-sabotage and the inner critic and rejection and all that fun stuff that us vulnerable songwriters go through in order to share our music with others.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's it in a nutshell.
No, that's perfect. And you're a great example of having a dream and saying, you know what, no matter what, I am going to make this a reality. And you did. And so I think you're fantastic and a great guest to have for this episode because you've been there and done that. And all of us who are still trying to get publishing deals and big cuts, like we're going to be walking the same path you did in terms of the hurdles we face. And so I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. Can you kick things off by reading a great quote by Wendy Starland?
Absolutely. So here's the quote. The people who come out on top in music business have persistence. It is key. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. It takes a lot of courage and an unwavering belief in yourself and your abilities.
Oh, this is amazing. What does this quote mean to you?
So it's interesting. This quote is really powerful to me because of that word that stands out to me as persistence, which is something that I've always really been, I don't want to say a fan of. Persistence is so important. And a lot of people, including myself, what does that mean, persistence? And this is what it says exactly. You fall down 7 times, you stand up again. And it's a balance of going, okay, is this working for me? Should I throw in the towel? Or do I just pivot? Do I try it a different way? You know what I'm saying? And that is the key, I think, for achieving any kind of goal, is having that inner stability, that strong foundation to go, okay, no matter what happens, I'm not going to take this as boo-hoo fail. I'm going to go, okay, where can I learn from this? And then just take another step.
Perfect. I completely agree. I think persistence is completely key, like this quote says, and you as well. And I think in order to get anywhere in the music business, like it's hard. It's really hard. And I think like people need to realize that if you want to be a songwriter, you're not going to wake up one day, meet the right person, and get a hit, and things will be all sunshine and butterflies and perfect. And I think, like, even when you start getting some success and start to see some things fall into place, that doesn't mean that you have to, or that doesn't mean that you can stop being persistent and that everything's going to be okay, because you have to continue to climb the ladder of success, whatever that means to you individually, and you will still face obstacles no matter how successful you become. And so I think it's like this ongoing battle that we constantly have to deal with, and we have to be ready for that.
You nailed it, because that's just it. I mean, the business and music is always changing, right? Things are constantly changing, like faster now than ever. And so you're right. No matter what kind of success you have, you still have those challenges to get through. So it's not, am I, tough enough that I'll never have another, form of being rejected again? No, you will in some ways. It's just sort of, how am I going to deal with it? Because it's learning how to cope with those things that's most important. But yeah, I was just going to say another thing too about music business and things changing, is that there are many other opportunities now, not just the mainstream music business that we see today. So I just want to mention that too. There's all kinds of other cool opportunities out there now, that you can say, look, I may not have a number one hit on the radio, but look, I've written a song for a YouTube channel or something like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that we can kind of see as stepping stones to whatever our big goal is. Like this year, I recently got my first cut with a UK artist. She's an independent artist, but that was huge for me because this is something I've been busting my butt for since like 2019. And at that point, I was like, I really don't care who my first cut is, but I want my first cut. And I got that. And so that was a huge moment for me. And also working toward, getting on one of my hometown stations, which I achieved this year as well, my top 40 pop station, I got interviewed on. And that was something that I've been
Oh,
working toward.
awesome.
Yeah. So it's like these little things. It's like people can look toward like, oh, Billboard hit or a Grammy or like something really, really high up. But I think we can't dismiss these smaller successes because for me personally, like when I get a little bit of success somewhere, that just motivates me and tells me, like, okay, I did this, so that means I can do better and continue to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I have friends who were at the Grammys this past time, and this is the thing. Those types of people, when I think about them, they're not the kind of like, for example, they started probably getting these small stepping stones, right? That's how you get there. And they're the kind of people who are so in love with the craft and having it, I don't want to say perfect, but let's say really mastering what they do. That regardless if they got accolades or whatever, that doesn't matter. It's that journey of enjoying the process. So that really is what it's all about.
For sure, 100%. So let's shift a little bit into some of the hurdles we face. And first, I want to talk about shyness and putting yourself out there because this is something that you brought up while you were doing your introduction. I was super shy growing up. Like, doing an interview 3 years ago, I would have been like, nope, goodbye, I'm not doing this anymore, I can't do this. And now I love interviews. And so it's something I had to overcome, being shy and putting myself out there. So, how have you overcome your shyness over the years?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a process, because it's funny. I was just thinking of a memory when I was so small and I was at a little dance recital and every other kid was up there doing it. And I was so terrified. And I think I cried and I refused to do it. And it's so crazy to think of, like, now it's like, oh, put me in front of anyone. I'll do whatever. You know what I mean? You kind of let go. of those fearful thoughts in your mind. And that's really what has been the evolution of what I've become, and what I'm continuing to do. It's like, it all kind of, to me, starts in your mind and your subconscious, right? Because you probably were terrified a couple years ago. Maybe the things going through your head were like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I sound like an idiot? What if I don't know what to say? Right.
Right.
But if you can, yeah, if you can kind of retrain your thoughts, for example, to affirmations, I'm a big fan of, where you're kind of telling yourself, you're just switching all that narrative. You're just changing it from what if I say dumb things to, man, what if I'm awesome? What if I say something really great? And I trust myself. I trust that I'm going to say the right things at the right time. Um, so that has been quite the evolution for me. And some of the other tools and things that I use, like visualization. I'm a very visual person in my mind, which I'm sure a lot of us creatives are, right? We can see things, and that's what makes us want to create and do them, right? When you can visualize the outcome and see it being done, and being done in a, you're kind of imagining yourself being happy. You finish the interview, you feel great. um, Sort of tapping into those sorts of things have really, really helped me get over the shyness, and really just tap into being myself, right? Because that's a huge thing too with being an artist. Like, we all kind of want to do what's sort of flavor of the month and what's trending right now. When you can really become who you are and be proud of that, feel comfortable in your skin, I feel like that changes a lot too.
Perfect. Wow, you said so many great things. The first thing is like changing the narrative in your mind from the negative self talk to positives. I think a lot of times, like, we create these illusions for ourselves that things are much worse than they actually are, or the outcome can be this epic fail when it's actually not going to be. And so I completely agree with like training your mind to think positive. And I think that kind of translates to the confidence and showing who you really are and putting yourself out there. Because for me, like, I am authentic in everything I do. And because I am that way and I believe so much in authenticity, I don't care about being perfect all the time, because that's not me. Nobody's perfect. And if somebody wants to portray themselves as either perfect on social media, or say they get interview questions ahead of time and craft perfect answers to everything, like, that's not realistic. And so I've been trying to, keep in mind, like, okay, if I do this interview or this show or whatever, my goal is to be myself. And if I mess up a little bit, that doesn't matter, because as long as I'm authentic, that's what means the most to me.
Yeah, because you'd be surprised, as to say, when you mess up in your eyes on something, that'll be like the first thing someone will go, man, I love that you did that. It made you feel so real. I can totally relate to that. Right. Because we're all human. And, that's what it's all about.
For sure. Yeah. And something else that we face is imposter syndrome. And this is something I
Yes.
dealt with a lot. Like, when I started not thinking I was worthy, can I even write a song? Who cares about my music? All those thoughts. So, what are some of the techniques you have for breaking down those walls and believing that you do belong in the industry?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a big one. So many people, deal with that. And it's sort of a daily thing for myself as well. I mean, it's all the things that I do are, they're a practice, right? So, you can get better at them, but you still have to continue to practice them. And one of the methods that I really like is, I call it subconscious reprogramming, or retraining your thoughts. So we've talked a lot about thoughts, but I actually have a free, um, basically, it's a free recording that you can listen to and play it. I say 21 days, but you can play it for more. But basically, what you're doing is you're listening to, you're taking new thoughts, and your mind is going to relearn how to think. Now, this isn't like I'm going to, brainwash you. This is, but what it is your brain. There's something called neuroplasticity, which is a mouthful. Basically, your brain can rewire itself to learn new ways of being, which I just think is the coolest. Because if you are someone who's like, I'm just not good enough, or someone's going to ask you to play a gig, and you almost say no, or you say no because you think, oh man, they must have contacted me by mistake because I'm not good enough, or whatever it is. You can retrain your brain to think, uh, first, A, I am good enough, and B, if I'm not good enough, I'm going to get good enough by the time that gig rolls around. And those are all things that you can really retrain your brain to think. So it's a program. It, it's basically a listen. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? A list of affirmations that you can listen to when your subconscious is in sort of a meditative state, and it'll reprogram your thoughts so that you feel better and you can react to those things in a better, stronger way.
That's awesome. I love that. And I like how you said in passing, like, if you're not good enough or you believe you're not good enough, you have time to grow. Like, even when you feel like, oh, I'm doing great at this, like, there's always room to grow. Everybody has room to grow. And I think that's something to remember. And I love the thing about, thinking you might not be ready for a gig, but saying, by this date, I'm going to be good enough. And I think, like, what it comes down to with me a lot of the times, I feel like I'm not only trying to prove to myself that I'm worthy, but prove to others. And the more you show confidence and belief in yourself, the more people would see that. And so I think a lot of the times I've heard several people say that it's not necessarily the person with the best voice or the most talent or anything like that that are the ones that make it all the time. Sometimes it's the ones that really have what it takes in terms of confidence and self belief and proving that I deserve to be here. And when you have that mentality and you show that to the world, then people start to like pay attention because you're radiating all this positivity and self worth, and that shows.
Exactly. I wish you could see me right now as my head is nodding because I totally agree. I think what people tend to not, I guess if the light isn't shone on it enough, in my opinion, is that, like you say, you can practice all the guitar you want. You can have all the money in the world to learn the skills. But if you don't have the solid foundation on the inside, you're never going to practice. Or you might practice, but you're only going to get so far because you start telling yourself, this isn't for me. I'm not good enough to do this, or all those things that we tell ourselves in our mind, right? It is a foundation that everything is built on, and it's just so important that you start with this sort of thing, um, and build all the actual physical skills and knowledge from there.
For sure. 100%. But even when we're confident in ourselves and show self belief, sometimes, a lot of the times, we get rejected, which is not fun. And when I was starting out, when I heard no or got ignored, it was like the end of the world. It sucked and I hated it. And now, like, I just read, like, full disclosure to everybody listening, I just read, like, my first review of one of my songs that wasn't very nice. And 2 years ago, I probably would have started crying and, like, just decided I'm not releasing music anymore. But I read that and I thought to myself, okay, big deal. I don't care. And then I just clicked off of it and moved on. Because the reality is, like, if you look at the biggest celebrities, people don't like them. They have fans and they don't have fans, and that's just the reality. And so you're going to be rejected by some people. You're not going to be liked by everybody. And so, what are your tips and techniques of like dealing with rejection and negativity?
Yeah, because that's so interesting you say about the big celebrities, because it's so true. It's like as equal amount of people that love them as sort of like an equal amount of people that don't like them.
Yeah.
And they're human too. So what do you think? Do they stay up at night thinking about those few people that were mean to them or whatever? Like, I totally have been there, and even just recently, I had that happen where I decided I'm really going to put myself there out on social media. And of course, some random person said something rude, and I was like, oh man, and it kind of ate away at me. And then I literally had to stop and be like, no, first of all, this is what you teach. So don't you dare start going and getting yourself like self pity mode here. And then I literally just stopped my thoughts and thought, no, I'm not going to allow this to take over my basically your mind, which takes over your whole day. So some of the techniques, let's talk about it. There's definitely a couple of different things, for rejection, because I have faced so much from everything from, trying out for musical theater and, thinking I need the lead part and not, then you end up in the chorus, or sending songs to people and it's like not hearing anything back, or it's like, what do I do with this? Or what am I doing wrong? Um, so I'm always going back to that sort of reprogramming of the thoughts. But also, man, some of this like visualization, breathing techniques, sort of things to like calm yourself and get yourself in the right state of mind. Um, Another huge thing is like strengthening your intuition, right? Because that's interesting. Like you said, you read something that was negative, but in your gut, it's like no big deal, whatever. That's that person's thought. Most of the time, it's like the other person's sort of thing they're dealing with, not a direct reflection of who you are. It's tapping into that intuition. Okay, but another thing that I've realized, especially as of lately, is when things aren't working or you're feeling rejected or you're feeling like, hey, I put myself out there. Say I tried, I love this song in particular, and maybe you're sending it to all kinds of people, and no one's really giving you feedback or the feedback you're looking for. You either tap inward and go, okay, well, I don't care. It doesn't bother me that no one's into this. It's all good. And you carry on, which feels great anyway. Or B, you sit there and you really self-reflect and go, okay, if this isn't working, what is it that I can change so I can make it better for next time? And I had something similar happen to me recently where I did a presentation and it didn't go as I planned. I didn't get the reception I was looking for. And after a day or two of being like, oh, poor me, like that's what the heck? It's all their fault, not mine. I decided to go, oh, wait, what if I change? What if I change the way I'm doing things? And I'm not even kidding you. Within a few days, a friend of mine sent me this whole huge, like basically ton of free information I was looking for to help me get to where I can change the way I'm saying things and this and that, like basically the solution I was looking for. You know what I'm saying? And now I've completely changed the way I'm doing things. So that's the thing about rejection is you can really use it as a tool for getting better. Because my God, if I stay stuck, you're just going to continue to be frustrated. You're going to just continue doing the same thing and feeling frustrated. Do you see what I'm saying?
For sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so much to respond to all of this. But the first thing is like, I have definitely been using rejection and not necessarily like actually straight up rejection, but getting ignored too as like a sign, like, okay, how can I change this? And so when I started to pitch my music, perfect example, when I started, I didn't know what an EPK was and I didn't know how to approach people in the business for press stuff. And so when I would just send my music and ask for something or whatever, I was getting 100% ignored. And then I was like, hold on, this, like, I know my song is good. I know it has potential. Why is everybody ignoring me? And then I like did research. I read a book about the music business and I found out like an EPK was a thing. And so I put one together on my website and now the response has been insane. And so I realized this is how the industry does things. And if I would have just taken the rejection as my music is terrible, then I wouldn't have dug deeper and realized, oh, wait, maybe I'm just not doing things the way the industry expects me to. And so that was a big learning thing. And that's what I continue to do. Same thing with songwriting. I think it's so important to show my music to people for feedback, and that's something I was hesitant to do at the beginning. And I think it's because we get so attached to our songs sometimes, but we have to realize that if we want them to be the best they can be, we have to be open to sharing them and hearing feedback to make them the best they can be. And by doing that, that can eliminate some of the rejection because you're being willing to hearing feedback that you might not want to hear, but taking that and saying, okay, this is multiple people's opinions. Maybe I should listen to it instead of ignoring that. So I completely agree with everything you said. It's so important to be open to that feedback and reflect on it and be mindful of what it's actually saying.
Yes, and I love what you just said because that's exactly it, exactly what you did. And so I talk a lot about meditation. I'm obviously a huge, huge fan of meditating, and which can kind of be sort of wrapped up in a like, oh, that's so woo woo kind of thing. But I mean, the tremendous tool that it is, I think people don't give it the credit it deserves. And I have specific, musician meditations that I do. But what the meditations do, one of many, is they give you the ability to have self awareness. They give you the ability to, like you say, write the song. Okay, first of all, you get 1,000 creative ideas from just doing that. So you write the song, and then, like you say, you play it for people because now you got some confidence. And so, let's say 10 people say, "Oh man, the chorus is too long." Instead of having the attachment of being like, "No, it's my baby. I'm not changing the chorus." Like, go ahead if you want to do that, sure. But if you want to connect with people, this is what I always go back to. I like music because it connects me with myself, but I love it how it connects with others, right? We're doing it so that we can all sort of feel this incredible connection, right? So when you get that self awareness, you change that chorus, and now, because you don't have that attachment as deeply, and now you're making it better, which means people are more receptive to hearing it. And then they hear it and they connect with it. And then they want to tell their friends, and then everybody, do you see what I'm saying? It's like, and everybody wins. Um, So that's why I feel like it always starts with that foundational piece.
Self awareness is so important. I love how you brought that up because that's completely important. I think we can get so wrapped up in our goals and our songs and what we want, but sometimes we can lose sight of ourselves and our personal life and how we're feeling and all those things. And our minds and our bodies will tell us when something's off and when we have to stop and listen and reflect. And I think, like, when it comes to songwriting, it's so important to continuously reflect and be mindful of, the songs and how they're performing and what you want. Because for me personally too, like on the other side of this, like with persistence and success, like we were talking about before, for me, I made a huge mistake in that once I started to get some success and I was showing persistence so much, I kind of put my ambition a little bit before my own health. And so last spring, after I did like a ton of back to back interviews, I got like a cold and I felt like crap and I just couldn't focus on school. And then my self awareness led me to say, okay, Jermaine, just chill for a second. Like, you're going to burn yourself out if you keep doing this. And so I think the awareness stems beyond just the music and being mindful of how to be the best you can, professional and all that in the industry, but also like in your personal life and how you're feeling because you need that balance. And if you don't have that balance between your ambition and your goals and your personal life and how you're feeling, then things will collapse. And I've been there. And so self awareness throughout the whole thing is so important.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you're right. We just live in such a go, go, go culture where more is more. And it's easy to get caught in that because social media and things like that. And it's just that's just the way that we are. But people also don't seem to realize that if you do less and you take that time to gain that self-awareness and really tap inward, things slow down and they actually get a little easier and you end up doing less stuff, but it's more effective.
For sure. Yeah, well, our timer went off, so let's just chat for a couple more minutes to kind of wind down here. And there was one more thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is having supportive people around you because I found that I was able to jump a ton of the hurdles I faced just from having people in my corner cheering me on and making me feel like I belonged and giving me the guidance and making me feel like I could ask questions to learn and grow. And so I think having those supportive people and, that support is so important. So, what is your thoughts on this, and how do you think it's best to go about finding these supportive people and holding on to them?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. That community and that support group is everything. I'm thankful that I had an incredible family and really a couple key friends that were supportive and still are throughout my journey. But some people don't have that. And that doesn't mean that they won't ever have that, but I think the first thing that came to my mind is, I'm sure you've heard people say kind of the energy that you give out and are the people that you attract to you, right? So it always starts with you, right? If you're giving out that energy that there is a way of shifting your energy so that you can sort of attract people into your world that are more in alignment with what you do and that can help you. You can kind of help each other. Um, yeah, that sense of community is so important. I just actually started a Facebook group a couple of days ago, just for this reason, for people to really get a sense of like we can help each other and be there for each other. So it's a huge and important thing, and it's something that you can definitely get there. Just because you don't have that sense of community right now, um, again, changing things on the inside, which I teach, will really help you. I say find your tribe, and that goes for co-writers and all that sort of thing too, collaborators.
For sure. I love that. I think, the what you put out is what you get kind of thing. Like, I have a song coming out called You Get What You Give. It's kind of a sassy song, but literally,
Oh,
like,
perfect.
that's so good because it's like, it's so true with everything. Like, whatever you put out is what you're going to get. And if you are giving back and if you're putting your experiences out there, showing who you really are, people will notice that and want to, either learn from you or get to know you. And I've definitely seen that over the last couple years, like with myself. Like, I've met incredible friends, artists, songwriters, people in the industry, professional songwriters that are like in my corner, which is crazy because like I am just so happy with what I'm doing. I love writing. I love being a songwriter. And that shows. And I think like finding people anywhere, like what you said with the Facebook group, people are sometimes hesitant to reach out and look for those supportive people. But the truth is, like, if you're a songwriter just starting out or an independent artist, there are so many songwriters and artists all over the world who are looking for the same support and community that you are. And I've met the nicest people on social media at retreats and classes that are just like me. And I think the most important thing is to remember that the music industry isn't a competition. We're all here to lift each other up and see each other succeed. And if you go into it with that mindset and find these other people with the same goals and dreams as you, then you guys will just be so much stronger together because you'll all be lifting each other up and helping each other succeed.
Yeah, and regardless of what happens in your journey, you'll be thankful and happy along the way. You know
For
what I mean? And
sure.
at the end of the day, that's what matters. So,
Yeah, 100%. Awesome, Lisa. This has been lovely. Before we go, can you share any final thoughts you have for anybody listening who might be struggling to jump their songwriting hurdles?
yeah, I guess my final thoughts are that, you have the power and you have the ability. It really all starts with you. I always say, everything that you need is already inside of you. So it's just a matter of getting quiet and tapping in and finding that. I really feel like that is the root of your success. Um, yeah, so that's my final thoughts on that.
Perfect, Lisa. This has been such an incredible and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you share with everyone where they can connect with you online and social media and anything else you'd like to share before we go?
Sure, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. And if people want to connect with me, first of all, I've mentioned a couple of different, little free things that I have. You can find everything on musicandmindfulness.co. So that's my website, musicandmindfulness.co. I'm actually doing a free 5-day workshop coming up in May. And in that, it's called Breakthrough Songwriter. And in that, I'm going to, teach people, these things that we've been talking about, how to write what people want to hear, starting from the inside, how to gain traction with your music. Again, starting with all these different techniques, how to create outstanding song ideas so people stop and listen and enjoying the whole journey as you go. So if you want to sign up for that, it's a free online workshop, and that you can do at musicandmindfulness.co. And I'm also on TikTok at Music and Mindfulness. And Instagram is at lisa.mcewen. That's MCEWEN.music. That's at Lisa McEwen Music. And you can also find me on Facebook under Lisa McEwen. Oh, and also I should mention that Facebook group I just started. If you search it, it's called Lisa's Songwriting Tips. So you're welcome to look that up as well.
Fabulous, Lisa. Thank you so much again for joining me. This has been lots of fun, very inspiring. It's been an honor having you. Listeners, thank you for listening to this episode with Lisa McEwen. And of course, until next time, stay right on track.